were to be God for one day, maybe? Nobody for one moment would ever like to be God. Okay, even just for a moment. Sounds like a movie. I think it was Bruce Almighty. But think about it. What if God came to you and said, you have my power for one full day? What would you do? Well, for those of us who think better for humanity, we might do stuff such as end hunger as we know it, right? Perhaps end poverty. You know, maybe we could end storms. Right? Wouldn't that be nice? Hurricanes. But then, you know, perhaps a few of us might want to do a few things for ourselves, right? Maybe take care of money for ourselves and for our family for the rest of our lives. Wouldn't that be nice? Just like that, you never have to worry about a thing. Or what about bringing back somebody that was dead and make him alive again? Wouldn't that be nice for somebody you loved? I mean, these are all powerful things. Or what about taking care of one of our enemies that we don't really like? That's a powerful thing. If you have all power, you can do that. But we don't really understand today about having all power. Not God power per se, but perhaps like power of a great king. You know, there might be some monarchs these days, but most of them don't have absolute power. You know, there's a few dictators in the world, but we really have to go back hundreds of years for when kings or queens had absolute power. You know, the type of power that would be if the king would look at, I don't know, Jan and say, off with her head. What would happen to poor Jan's head? Off with her head. I mean, we don't have kings or queens with that much power anymore, but during Jesus' day, guess what? The kings had that much power. And the greatest king during Jesus' day was none other than Caesar himself. Caesar, the head of the Roman Empire. Caesar, who ruled many nations and was able to rule many nations because he had all these puppets in place to help out. Whether it be King Herod or whether it be his people he put in charge, such as Pilate in Jerusalem. And that's where Jesus met Pilate on the day of his death, where we get the reading this morning. And Pilate, if you read this story about Jesus' death, is a bit perplexed. Because Jesus was called a king, but in Pilate's mind, if one was a king, one wouldn't be standing there about to be put to death. If Jesus was really a king, why didn't he have his angels come down and take care of the situation that he did not have to die? But Jesus, who had all power, decided not to use the power that he had in order that we all might have life and know God. You see, sometimes we have power and we choose not to use it so others might experience greater things. Or we use the power that's been given to us in order to help other people. You know, today is Christ the King Sunday. A day that we remember Christ as the greatest King. King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But I think it's a day that we need to look at what power means for us in our lives. Now you might say none of you have power in here, but that's not true. Kids, do your parents have power over you? Yes, right? Yeah, they tell you what to do, right? When they say it's bedtime, what happens? You go to bed. If they tell you to brush your teeth, you have to brush your teeth? Ugh, who wants to brush their teeth, right? It's horrible.
Throwing breath every day.
That's right. You would. So parents have power over the kids.
We have power over our toys.
You have power over your toys. That's true. You tell your toys what to do. We all have power. We have power in ways that we don't expect. Sometimes we have power simply because we're an authority figure over somebody else, a teacher, or a parent, or an older brother or older sister. Yeah, but sometimes we have power in other ways. You know, we have power, many of us, in money. Now, some here might think, oh, I don't have much money, but compared to the 2/3 of the world, we're all pretty wealthy compared to 2/3 of the world. You know, and in these last several weeks, when we've seen how the world's power can destroy neighborhoods, we have to keep asking ourselves, how can we use a little bit of power that we have with our resources to help others? You know, every year, I have a budget set aside for Christmas for my parents and everyone else. This year, Mom and Dad, you're going to be seeing this online. This year, they're going to get a little bit of gifts, but I'm going to be taking the rest of the money and buying toys for the kids from St. John's Episcopal Hospital and the neighborhood in my parents' honor, in order to help out kids. That's the way I can use some of the power that I have to help others. What about the power of our time? Who here doesn't think you have enough time in the day to do anything? Okay? Guess what? All studies over and over and over again say that we Americans waste time more than anybody else. If something's important, really important, we can use the power of our time to volunteer to make a difference. Whether it be volunteering in our church, in our schools, or in the neighborhoods that are going to need help.
I volunteer for everything.
You volunteer for everything? Wow, you must do a lot. Mom and Dad, I don't know how you keep up with their schedule. Another power, just a simple power. Power to make a difference in somebody else's lives. Kids, how many of you in school have ever seen somebody bullied or picked upon?
Me.
Yeah, you've all seen it. Parents, workers, how many of you in the workplace see people picked upon? Power. You have the power to do something about it. To go over to somebody and who's picking on somebody else and tell them, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen here. And to go and be friends with the other person who's being picked on. These are just little examples about our use of power and how we can use it for good or for evil. Jesus decided to use the power that he had, not to use it, that we all might have life. He could have stopped his death, but he didn't. And instead, God's power brought him to life. My sisters, my brothers, it's Christ the King Sunday. What power are you going to be using for the glory of God this week? You have power. Use it for him.
I'm going to go to school.
Amen.